Hello friends! In today's video we will talk about the recent intensification of pressure by the army of Russia on Kostiantynivka. According to the military, the enemy is systematically destroying the city, working on it with their entire arsenal, heavy aerial bombs, tube and rocket artillery, plus constant pressure from FPV drones. The enemy's tactics are simple: not to assault fortified positions head-on, but first to turn the terrain into a scorched zone without shelters or the possibility of defense. The city is purposefully being smashed into dust so that any logistics and maneuver become as complicated as possible. The main pressure is currently along the flanks. The enemy is trying to push through the defense and expand the gray zone. In essence, the battles for the city have already started. The enemy is trying to squeeze the defense, shake the flanks, and gradually bite into the buildings, using ruins as cover. Our units have to work in conditions of constant fire pressure, where every meter is under tight control and at the cost of serious effort, Ukrainian military personnel report. Separately, the critical situation with logistics is worth noting. The enemy keeps the entrances to the city and main roads under tight control through units of the elite unmanned systems center Rubicon. So-called waiting drones are waiting along the highways, reacting to any target from heavy equipment to a single motorcycle. This seriously complicates supply, rotation, and evacuation. At the same time, local residents in Kostiantynivka are openly demonstrating Russian symbols, writes a Ukrainian serviceman with the call sign Muchny. According to him, in the area of Santurynivka, directly under residential buildings, another factor of destabilization has surfaced: local waiters who openly flash Russian symbols, against the background of how the city is methodically turning into ruins under the strikes of those same liberators. This looks like a complete break from reality. But in fact, this is an additional risk for our units. Such elements can leak movements, adjust fire, or simply create information noise, writes Muchny, the fighter. Muchny also writes that the enemy is exerting not only fire pressure on Kostiantynivka, but also psychological pressure, scattering leaflets with calls to surrender. According to him, this is a typical marker of preparation for intensification in the sector. The enemy is trying to shake morale before moving in closer. However, in fact, there is no ground for this. Our units hold their positions and there is no talk of any demoralization. The enemy clearly overestimates the effect of this pressure. The calculation that the city is tired is not working. The scenario to push through not by force but by cunning does not convert into a result on the ground, writes Muchny. As of today, according to our fighters, the enemy in Kostiantynivka has begun to press along the outskirts of the Berestovyi microdistrict, trying to disrupt our actions for infiltration and clearing of positions. Our units are working in the direction of displacing the Russians, but the situation is aggravated by the fact that the enemy tightly keeps the sky under control. Any movement is immediately recorded, followed by targeted strikes. Effectively, the enemy is trying to cut off our maneuver even on the approaches, not allowing us to deploy into a full-scale cleanup. In parallel, active artillery processing of the Tsentralnyi microdistrict is being conducted. Here, the enemy is knocking out probable gathering points of our personnel to disrupt preparation and prevent the formation of reserves for counteractions. The pressure is constant, with a calculation on exhaustion and the debalancing of the defense. The enemy pays special attention to the areas north of the industrial district and the Shanghai microdistrict. Strikes are recorded in these sectors, indicating preparation for further pushing through. These are potential directions where the enemy can catch on and try to expand the control zone or create conditions for a bypass. Against this background, the key load falls on the eastern and southern flanks. There, the enemy constantly maneuvers, looks for weak spots, and acts according to its typical tactics: pressure, an attempt to bypass, and repeated compression. Our units hold these areas, not allowing the enemy to deploy a full-fledged breakthrough and consolidate. Friends, as you can see, my channel has been getting very few views lately, so I'm making practically no income. If you could support me financially, I'd be very grateful. Thank you, and see you in the next video.